Welcome Strategy Battle Gamers to another GBHL YouTube video. You're here with not quite GBHL Damian.
And not quite GBHL Thomas.
And this is a tournament review. Oh yes, we have just returned from the Desolation of Stockport tournament in Stockport. And we are going to be reviewing it for you. This was of course hosted by your GBHL hosts. I'm doing a lot of repeating it. Yeah. James and Jamie, and obviously they can't, I'm sure they're going to do a summation video, but they can't necessarily give the tournament a kind of objective review, I suppose.
Yeah, they can't play out the scenario as well, because they didn't play them. Well, James did do 3 games actually at the end.
James was making up the tables, wasn't he? Yeah. So they can't give a kind of player review. So we thought it'd be a good idea if we did it as familiar YouTube faces. Familiarish, yeah. So hopefully this isn't upsetting everyone, and we'll talk you through some of the games we played, some of the stuff we did, things we liked, things we didn't like, what the social aspects were like, and anything else we can think of, really. Yeah. And this is dedication because it's currently about 11:30. Yep. We're doing this, we've just got back, so we're still pretty excited about the tournament, still buzzing from it, definitely a bit sleep deprived, but we will push on through and hopefully give you something good to listen to while you do some painting. This is definitely one to do while you're painting. This is not a kind of don't watch us. We don't look our best. Definitely put this on in the background, do a bit of painting, and I think you'll be alright. So, when did we go down? Go up.
Go up. It's definitely up. On the Friday night, after work, myself, Damian driving, and Sam Page all arrived quite late on the Friday night at the Britannia Hotel in Stockport.
Yeah, about 11 o'clock. I think we got there. Yep.
Yeah, quite a few other people there. Thomas Macklin,
Jay, Claire was staying there.
Yeah,
Alistair King. Yeah, whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Jon.
Yeah. Larry.
Yeah, loads of people staying in the same hotel, which is always good. And you two headed to bed. As the elder statesman of the group, I dropped the youngsters off. Tom and Sam went off to bed, and I went to meet everyone else at the then in good favour Beefeater, which was called the Banbury Arms.
Yes. Yeah,
the Banbury Arms. So we went over there where there were already quite a rowdy group of people. I think there were about 20 guys there, all down on the Friday night while having a few drinks, which was really good. Got to meet some people, got to meet some YouTube fellows who knew me, which is really weird. People I've never met came up to go, "Oh, it's Damian." I was like, that's strange.
You're a lot uglier in real life.
A lot uglier in real life, yeah, absolutely. They were all very disappointed. So yeah, that was really nice. Good to have a few beers, kind of talk about some of the upcoming stuff.
Yeah. And
called it a night about 1, I think, and then crept back to bed, to our bed, because, and I'm sorry to Mr. Thomas Harrison, Sam Page, and Thomas Macklin. Because when I booked 2, I was meant to book 2 twin rooms. I in fact booked 2 double rooms. So it was kind of alright for me and Tom. We've known each other for a long time now. We just cozied up. It was fine. Sam Page and Thomas Macklin.
Second time
meeting. I think they spent the weekend sharing a bed. But despite some initial reservations, I think they were alright with it. Yeah. I think they had their blankets on either side.
Yeah, you've got to do certain things to support your hobby.
You do, absolutely, yeah. Just got to grin and bear it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason that I went to bed wasn't because I was a party pooper as such. I'd been spending a lot of time during the previous week trying to get my army done, so I'd had some late nights and obviously still had to go to work, so early mornings.
What was it Tuesday night?
Yeah.
Crazy one? Was that a...
Yeah, that was like 2:30 and then up at 6.
Up at 6 AM to paint the rims of bases before work.
I set my alarm for 5:30 so I could paint the rims.
That's amazing.
Before leaving for work, that wasn't a good day at work.
I'm sure tomorrow will be great.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work tomorrow. Win. So, good night's sleep, breakfast the next day.
Yeah.
Good breakfast. Good big fry up, all you can eat buffet. I was pretty happy with that. And then Thomas Macklin drove us to the venue.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice of him.
Yeah, very nice. It was only around the corner. Yeah. Only about a 5-minute drive or something. So everything was really localised, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And we got there to the Northwest Gaming Centre, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, first impressions were it's huge.
Yeah, massive.
Absolutely huge, because there was an X-Wing tournament on at the same time, as you probably heard, because James and Jamie were trying to sell our tickets faster than theirs, and I think they probably succeeded.
Yeah, I think there were more of us.
Yeah.
I think there seemed to be more of us.
We were certainly louder and cooler.
Definitely cooler. Very cool SPG fans, yeah, absolutely. So we were there, I don't know, maybe...
9ish?
Yeah, 9ish, something like that. Got there nice and early. Lots of chatting with people.
Yeah.
Catching up. But the centre itself is kind of like, it's the one step down from Warhammer World, I'd say.
Yeah.
In terms of venue itself, you've seen it on all the back reps, but walking into it is fantastic. Just, purpose-built tables there all the time. Really, really nice kind of layout, which was a kind of nice step up from, there's nothing wrong with any of the other kind of venues that the tournaments run at, but some of them are, they're hired halls. So, you set the trestle tables up, you set the scenery up, and then you take it all down, which is great, and they're great events. But it was really cool to be in a purpose-built centre, where immediately you could get, again, mugs of tea.
Yes,
mugs of tea. Just like at Dreamlike.
Yep.
Like people would come to your table and say, "Do you want tea?" And I was like, "Yes, I want tea," and they would bring you tea. And it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It really helps, particularly when you're tired.
And I'm sure that GBHL Jamie gives a bit of a tournament review, he'll tell you about how many Diet Cokes he had.
Yeah, he was queuing up the empty bottles the other day. I think it was yesterday when I looked over at about 11 and he had 6 or something. It was going like, that's a lot of Coke, diet or not.
So we got to see obviously all of the boards set up, and I think James was who had put them together. He'd done an amazing job.
Absolutely.
Really great attention to detail, because what he'd done is he'd actually taken you through the journey from Bag End all the way through to not just Mordor, Barad-dûr, but actually to Scouring of the Shire. So just all the way through Lord of the Rings, all of Middle Earth, Rivendell,
and some other bits like the desert boards like Pelargir and Far Harad.
Helm's Deep, Minas Tirith, with castles out.
There were 25 tables.
Yeah.
And I think at one point James said, even I hope you enjoyed the tables. Some of them are a bit tenuous, but they were amazing.
Yeah.
And the coverage was amazing as well. To cover that many boards in 25 boards in scenery for SPG, you might expect a couple of bits here and there, but they were packed. They were probably 33%, 50% kind of coverage. Really interesting, different boards. Yeah. Whenever you moved, I was quite annoyed. I think I played on one board twice.
I did the same. Yeah, it's
and
frustrating.
So you're kind of like, you don't get to try out another one. But fantastic scenery. And he said a lot of that was down to Darren. I think Darren helped them. I'm not sure if that was all owned by the centre, but amazing job.
But yeah, I mean, it makes the game so much more fun, especially at a tournament when you want to go for it. Some aspects of a tactical challenge, and when you have different terrain on different boards, it definitely makes a difference. Although I guess if you're an elf player and you get shoved on a wood board, you're always going to be happy.
So that was great first impressions. Like really, really pleased. The place looked great to see a load of people. Yeah. It was all set up for a good day. So perhaps we talk about armies.
Yeah. Well,
what did you bring?
I won't go into too much detail because obviously you had roving reporter,
indeed,
not quite GBHL Damian, giving you some little snippets of each army at the tournament,
which may or may not have gone up by this point. Yeah, I honestly don't know.
No idea how it works.
But there are little interviews at some point with people.
But I'd taken some Rivendell Knights led by a Rivendell Knight captain, and some High Elves led by Glorfindel on a horse.
All freshly painted for this.
All freshly painted.
Brand new force. I'd taken Thorin leading 10 Warriors of Erebor, which are my newly painted converted ones from Grimhammers. Legolas leading 9 Rangers of Mirkwood Rangers, and Bilbo Baggins. Thorin was on pony, and Bilbo Baggins was Sting. So it was a kind of Battle of 5 Armies themed list. Kind of very fluffy. Quite excited to use it, but I think was actually pretty competitive. I thought this might do all right.
Yeah, and Thorin's going to be like pony at the Battle of 5 Armies. Is that why you took it?
Yeah, he's because they charge out of it. They charge out of Erebor. Yeah, and Thorin's on a pony.
Yeah,
I've got a cool Thorin conversion on a pony. I wanted to use it. I had 5 points spare. I literally had 5 points spare. Everything was painted up new. I had nothing else to spend it on. I've got to use it, and it turns him into a beast.
It does indeed.
And ponies are for winners. Keeping it GBHL.
Yeah.
Those are our armies.
Yeah.
And what was really cool was having 50 players or 48 players
getting on for 50. Yeah.
You didn't have. There was a good chance of not playing someone. Of playing someone you didn't know.
Yeah, especially with so many new players at the tournament. Yeah. I mean, I think James asked for a show of hands of who's come to their first ever tournament. It was a good chunk of people putting their hands up, so that's really excellent.
So I was drawn on table 2, which was just like, very near the top table, but obviously entirely arbitrary at that point.
Yeah.
And I got drawn against Lewis Applin.
Yeah.
In the first game, which was rescue. Because we were obviously doing the distillation of Smaug scenarios.
Yeah, which is quite exciting actually, because there's never been a tournament where it's gone through all of the distillation of Smaug scenarios, so this was a first. So, I mean, we'd never actually played either of these, had we, Rescue or Blockade?
No, I played Blockade once against Sam Page, and it turned into a big scrap in a corner where I killed his Cave Drake and routed his army, and I can't remember which side I was on, what I was trying to do, but it wasn't Blockade. It wasn't. It didn't work the way. I don't think it taught us anything about the scenario.
Okay. So what does Rescue involve then?
Rescue involves you have an attacker and defender. I was against Lewis. I think I got to pick, and I chose to be the attacker in that one. Yeah, I chose to be the attacker. So he set up his warband in the middle, which was Gimli and a bunch of Khazar. So I have to kill his leader. Very tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
I then deploy my all army about 6 inches away from that. He then deploys the rest of his army on the table edge, and I've just got to kill the leader.
Yeah.
And he's just got to break me.
So what was your rationale behind choosing the attacker, given that it's quite high defence models in the middle? Was it because it's got slow dwarves coming towards you?
Oh, I can't remember.
Or was it just I'll be attacker?
I agonised over it for a while. I think actually maybe he got to choose. I can't remember. I think it was more taking a punt that his reinforcements would be slow.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who I'd get drawn against. I knew for you, for example, you've got an army where your reinforcements would be really fast.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I had pretty good tools for taking some of them down. I thought so. I just went for it.
Yeah. And how did it go?
Not well. In brief, it did not go well. I played Lewis a couple of times before. Our victories were. I'd beaten him twice actually. I think I can't remember at Preston. I think I've beaten him twice. I might have beaten him once, and so felt pretty good going into it. But I had a strength 3 army. His leader and his Khazars were all defence 7.
Yeah.
So Gimli's defence 8. So I was a bit this is going to be tough. Piled into him. Didn't, as memory serves, it's only yesterday, and it already feels so long ago. Piled into him, and I just couldn't crack him in time, and he then got all his reinforcements on. His reinforcements were Malbeth, some Rangers of Arnor, and that kind. Some Woses. He had a Woses warband led by Garn as well.
I wonder where you got that
possibly
idea.
Possibly GBHL generally. Indeed, no axes on the sides.
They don't have axes.
In fact, I believe Jamie actually leant over and they got axes, and Lewis went no, and he just went. So yeah, they all came rushing on, and there was a lot of kind of heroic march offs where you're trying to get on, and ultimately he just got onto me before I could really get to him, and I kind of charged in, desperate to kill Gimli, and just couldn't get to grips with him. And as I say, I can't honestly remember the exact mechanics of it, but just he kept getting closer and closer to me. He was gradually taking control of the board, and all I had to do, the only thing I can do is kill Gimli, and I don't think I got close. That was it. I nearly had him at one point. I had a heroic move with Legolas that, if you imagine, he had a kind of curve, and I managed to get Gimli with Thorin on and 3 of my Warriors Variable, I think.
But who can pierce and strike?
Yeah, who can pierce and strike. Odd heroic strike. It might have come down to a 50-50 heroic strike off, but I was in a good position to kill him. And Legolas, his heroic move had missed. The guys had to finish within 6 inches of him, which meant that one dwarf on the end of his line, I couldn't engage. And as a result of that, he was able to use that one dwarf to get Thorin and pull Thorin off. And Thorin obviously killed him, but then Gimli just wiped out the guys. And then after that, I just didn't get close to Gimli again, in all honesty. I think they actually had a couple of scraps. I think Thorin got dismounted, and they had a couple of fights.
Didn't fancy heroic combating into him?
No, I think maybe he might have been down on might. I I think maybe he only had one white left that I thought I'd need for a strike, something like that.
Yeah.
There was some good reason not to anyway.
Yeah.
And after that, I couldn't get close to giving it again, so I couldn't get the VPs. Lewis broke me.
Yeah.
Just nothing more I could do about it, and it ended up with a loss for 3-0, I think. He broke me. Yeah. But, great game. Lewis is a top guy. It was a good fun start. Sent me plummeting down the tables. As always, I'm like, right, okay, maybe this isn't the army for me. But it was good fun. I enjoyed it. Happens.
Good.
What about yourself?
So, I was drawn against Elliot McDonald in my first game, so I was quite pleased about that because I'm playing someone that I've never played before, which is
lovely guy as well.
Yeah, really what you want in the first game of a tournament. You want to be playing someone you've never played before. And he'd brought a Harad Umbar force with Corsair Reavers. No Salt-thralls to back them up this time.
Corsair Reavers with axes.
Yes, he had put axes on. He had put
naughty
axes
boy.
On. He also had a Haradrim chieftain on a horse. That was his only mounted model though. And a Corsair captain. And then, some Corsairs with throwing axes, that kind of thing. Throwing axes, just throwing weapons. So I also chose to be the attacker in this one because I won the roll off between us. A reason that his models were quite squishy, low defence, and that I have the cavalry and can pounce on him quickly before he can get his reinforcements.
Sure.
So, first turn, obviously he has priority. The defender always has priority, so he has to kind of shuffle a bit, and then my Rivendell knights and Glorfindel and the knight captain just charge straight in. He'd obviously made a protective ring around the Golden King. There was kind of a rock in the middle, so he had the Golden King kind of protected by the rock on one side and then his ring of guys. And in that one round of charging, even though he had Corsair Reavers and everything like that, they all got decimated.
By the knights?
Yeah. Even with his fight 5, I rolled pretty well to win the fights.
You got lancers.
And with the lancers, and he was... Yeah,
there's Reavers are
defence 4, so Corsair's defence 3, it's just, bloodbath. The next go, obviously you can't get his reinforcements in yet. I was able to get Glorfindel on the Golden King and some more, and for good measure a couple of others, charging cavalry, and obviously then obviously a heroic strike off, but the Golden King's only fight 4, so needs at least a 4 to be able to draw with Glorfindel, who has an elf blade, and he fluffed it anyway, and obviously was destroyed in one turn. So, it's a tough scenario for him to come up against cavalry.
And does the game then end?
No, so then it got very interesting because I'd never played the scenario before, and I thought that the only points I could get were for leader kill.
Yeah.
And that obviously he could then get points for breaking me.
Yeah. And
my army's quite small, so obviously I charged in like this, but then I was kind of out of position, and his reinforcements were able to kind of hit me. And because I have foot models, I can't do the whole James, I'm cavalry, I'm going to run away from you.
Sure,
and
skirmish. Because you've got a mix of cavalry.
I've got a mix and I'm not quick enough. So I was actually really tense thinking, oh no, he's definitely going to break me.
He could just break you, yeah.
But I didn't realise that I could break him and get points for that.
Right.
And obviously because I'd done so much damage at the start that I was quite close to that, and obviously I did break him. So we both broke. And
Does it end when either force is at 25%?
Yeah, and I think that it was me getting him down to 25%, because once he had courage tests, then it was a lot
of the new scenarios are quite tricky in that sense that you get one thing or the other.
Yeah.
I think when we come on to it is that, isn't it? Isn't it Rescue where you only get one or the other? I think you only get. I thought that was the one where you only get the points for.
Oh no, that's it. That was it. He gets
it's
but
one or the other.
I stop him from getting the broken without being broken yourself. That's why I'd missed it. So you get the attacker, the defender gets 3 points if they break the enemy, and they're not broken, but only 1. And because I'd killed the leader, I got 3, so it was a 3-1 victory.
Right,
so that's why I missed it.
Because that's the thing, it's an interesting thing where you're not both fighting for. Normally you're both fighting for lead, you're both fighting for break.
Yeah. But you are still fighting for breaking away, just a roundabout way.
So it ended up in 3-1 victory to you.
Yeah, but a really, really good game.
So I went down, you went up.
Yes.
Cracking start for Harrison.
Yes.
Interesting that you don't normally try and do it, but your theory is always to lose the first game of a tournament, or not to try and do it, but if you're going to lose a game, do that one and then climb back up.
Yeah.
But this time you just went for the wins. straight out for the victories. That's obviously what I was planning on doing.
Yeah. Tactical loss.
Quick, just a break then, wasn't it? Wasn't lunch?
No, just a quick break.
Yeah, I started doing my roving reporter stuff.
Yeah.
Which was quite good fun actually over the weekend. I enjoyed that. I don't know if this will go out before those, but little player interviews looking at armies, which is nice to get to.
Whether they've been cut because they didn't meet GBHL approval.
Yeah, there's certainly some where they just fell apart, to be honest. But that's because I'm not being paid enough. So if anyone wants to send me some free models to pay me that stuff, that would be great. But I'll tell you what, actually, something about free models. I'd just like to say thanks to Steve for doing a very generous trade. Steve Crow, Steve from the channel, who I got to meet for the first time. Yeah. Well, you feel like you meet him. Yeah. You're like, Steve. Yeah. And he probably, I guess, knew me from the channel, but you've never met. We've PM'd a lot on One Ring and stuff and messaged. But
I've never PM'd him, and we kind of bumped into each other, and I was like, "Oh, hi, Steve," and he was like, "Hi, Tom," and it was like. But we've never met, so that is a really weird thing.
It's very strange, and it's something of the good things that the channel have done. Yeah. I think that there's lots of, on the One Ring and stuff, you had a lot of chatter about usernames, chatter between people, but you don't necessarily know who they are. No. Whereas you've now seen people on the videos and stuff, and you go and meet people.
Yeah, now there's no hiding from work colleagues or anything.
Absolutely. we are out there on
YouTube.
But, yes, it was good, and he did a really generous trade with me, which was really nice. Got some Riverdale Knights for some Glathram Court and stuff, so cheers for that, buddy, much appreciated. Also, it's worth pointing out, the sponsors were there. Have we mentioned that?
Yes.
Channel sponsors Shadow and Flame were there.
Yeah.
They did a Q&A at lunchtime, which we'll talk about when we get to it, but throughout the day they had a little desk set up with all the sculpts that Dave Fredericks has done.
They had a whole army events there.
Yeah, they had like 10 of them, didn't they? Yeah. And then painted by DMS. Yeah,
and some other notable ones. I mean, you can check it out on their Facebook page. They have all the pictures of these models, but there were some amazing ones that they had there.
Yeah, stunning stuff. And then Kev Lawrence, which is DMS, which is really cool for me because I've been on the One Ring for ages, and like again messaging like DMS and voting for his work and stuff in competitions, and knowing Dave I've got 2 of Dave's Ents, and actually meeting them was kind of bizarre. You kind of like look like mini celebrities. I was like, oh, you're DMS and you're UK Freddy Bear. So that was really cool. And of course, they never look or sound how you think they do. No. You like have a picture. We were saying this throughout the whole week, and you have a picture of someone in your head. And Kev was painting throughout the whole day. He got the new Bjorn set, and at the start of the day assembled it, and then was painting the thing for the whole day, and it was amazing. It was such a cool something different for a tournament to have. And he was really, they were both really generous with their time, and but Kev was, I was just badgering him all day, kind of going, right now, how have you done that? Because I'm about to paint Bjorn, and he gave me some really good tips, and it was just fascinating seeing how he works.
The speed of it as well, I mean, just
doing everything with a fine detail brush, paints everything with a fine detail brush.
And a separate brush for mixing.
Yeah, separate brush for mixing. And I kind of think, I was like, well, that's mad, and I go, oh, but you're awesome. Yeah. So maybe it's not mad. Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and top guys, really nice blokes both. So that was great. So game 2.
Yeah, back on timeline. Okay, so because the scenarios, the rescue scenario has an attacker and defender, we then played as the opposite role in this scenario. So obviously Damian and I were both defender in this, and I was drawn against another Tom. There are lots of Toms on the scene.
Lots of Toms and lots of Joes.
But this is Tom Williams, I think. If I'm wrong, I'm really sorry. There's so many Toms. And he had an all Gondor army. So Faramir, heavily armoured, Damrod, and a Gondorian captain. Oh, and Denethor. And then lots of warriors of Minister, a few Fountain Court, and some rangers. So quite a big force. And we got drawn on the board that was full of woods. So a bit unfortunate for him. He had woodland creature with Faramir, but that's...
Your knights are woodland creatures.
Yeah, yeah, all of mine are woodland creatures. So
poor guy.
Yeah, so I set up in the middle, and he obviously had tried to kind of surround me a bit. But obviously I've got cavalry as my reinforcement, so they were kind of there pretty much straight away, 2 turns in, and I'm already
fighting
my way out. So essentially I made a beeline for his squishier rangers.
As a leader as well, Glorfindel's incredibly hard to take down.
Yeah, Glorfindel, defence 7.
If you kill him in a game, it's normally right at the end when you've worn him down, not in the first couple of turns. Like with his fight and 3 fate and 3 wounds. Yeah.
Fight 7, yeah.
Yeah, and on my horse.
Yeah, and on the horse. Charged into these rangers and kind of killed quite a lot on this side, and unfortunately for Tom, he was kind of coming across and then had a big wood to either go through or come around, so I was able to quite effectively block him and slow his progress towards Glorfindel. And I mean, really, in terms of him getting towards Glorfindel, he had a couple of chances at the start when his captain heroic moved, because the captain kind of was with Captain and Damrod were the way I'd kind of tried to get out, but I just managed to win the roll-offs, and then it was very difficult because Faramir and Denethor were coming over from the other side to get anywhere near him. And even his Gondorian armour, whilst it's very good against elves normally because it's defence 6, when you've got lances charging, that makes a huge difference to an elven army being able to take down defence 6.
Yeah.
So it was a fun game, and I think that it might have been potentially a bit frustrating for Tom because it's not nice when you're playing against a player who can move. I've got cavalry through woods that can move 10 inches, and he's there moving 3 inches through it. So it's quite difficult for him. But he didn't show that he was not having a nice game. So yeah, I mean, it was a 3-0 victory because I'd broken him.
Yeah.
And I must have been...
Yeah, because you get the big piece of breaking him.
Yeah, and
not being broken.
That was it.
And he didn't touch it.
Yeah, that was it.
Cool. 2 wins.
Yeah.
I was drawn against George Perkins, which was really cool because I followed he was one of the first people to paint the Mirkwood Rangers and Tariel and all that on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of weird, like you're
I'm sure it's the day after he kind of painted
he had them very
Legolas.
early on, and again never met him, but his Facebook profile has got like a handlebar moustache and a hat on, and you see that on all his posts and assume that's what he looks like, and of course he doesn't because it must have been a fancy dress thing, and he doesn't have a handlebar moustache, and you're kind of like disappointed. I was like, oh, I thought you'd. Oh, okay, fair enough. So you're George. So good to meet him and see the army in person, which was stunning. Like, really lovely, lovely kind of pastel colours almost, like very pale greens. The whole thing tied in, and it was a really, really fluffy force, really well themed. He had, I think, something like, it's quite small because he had Legolas, Tariel, and Thranduil. Yeah. So that's about 300 points right there. Yeah. And then he had maybe 8 Rangers and 7 Palace Guard.
And the banner as well.
Yeah, he had a Palace Guard banner bearer. Yeah.
Thing, sinking points.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was the defender.
Yeah.
So, and I was pretty confident about this game as a defender because my leader is Thorin, defence 8, 3 wounds, 3 fate, and his warband are defence 7 dwarf warriors with shields. Yeah. So I was thinking, I went into the tournament, not necessarily this game, but the tournament thinking, at defender at rescue, I'm pretty happy. And I deployed, and then he then deployed his everything all together. He had separate warbands, but he chose to put them all in one big block. Yeah. And then I kind of took a punt. I had this thing where, obviously the only way I can get victory points in this scenario is by breaking him. So I decided either I can put my elves, so I'm in the centre here, his army's here. Do I put my elves here, walk away and just shoot him? Mm-hmm. Or do I put my elves here and crush him?
Or shoot him in the back?
Yeah, shoot him in the back. And I ultimately went for that to give myself the options. Okay. So I surrounded him essentially. Yeah. And then we had a heroic shoot-off. Yeah. Which you don't see a lot. No. But obviously I had 10 Rangers and he had 8 Rangers. Yeah. And in sort of 2 ranks. And so yeah, we both called a heroic shoot. He won the roll-off, I think. And all his were behind the Palace Guard, so I could shoot my guys. And managed to kill something like 3 or 4 Rangers of mine out of 9 in one hit. And it was my first real experience of seeing how squishy the Rangers are. Yeah. Because he's got strength 3 shooting and my guy's a defence 3. Yeah. So he's hitting me on 3s, killing me on 4s.
Yeah.
You know, like
devastating.
Yeah, devastating. I then fired back, and we were both Legolasing each other, which is really weird. Two Legolases.
Because he didn't have an elven cloak, did he?
No, he didn't have an elven cloak on Legolas. So when I then fired back, I couldn't shoot at his rangers because the Palace Guard are in the way. Mm-hmm. They've got elven cloaks.
Yeah.
So I ended up, I think I could see 2 of them. I killed a couple, and I managed to take all of Legolas's fate in shooting.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, which I was like, okay. And then my dwarfs are walking towards him, and my elves are behind him. And I kind of thought, not that I've got this, but this is looking good.
Yeah.
Because Thorin's safe.
Yeah.
All I've got to do is break him.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing. And then he did a strange thing, which was he then didn't go towards Thorin. He went towards my elves. And I kind of went, what's he doing? Like that's strange. And you know, I'm not sure what he obviously thought about what he was doing and thought Thorin was on a pony and had backed off. Yeah. He's not going to fight his way through dwarves. So I guess he was trying to deny me victory points. Mm. So I went after my elves, and suddenly this thin line of elves and Legolas and Bilbo are being approached by Thranduil, Legolas, Tariel, Palace Guard, and it was quite terrifying. But my dwarves were kind of coming up behind him, and they hit me first. And then of course, he's got fight 6 Palace Guard to beat my fight 5 Rangers.
Yeah, that's where Palace Guard actually are worth the points.
Absolutely, Palace Guard, which they are, you know, everyone knows they're overcosted, but by about 3 points each. But against other elves, they're incredible because they suddenly beat you. And I was suddenly fighting this quite defensive action where I think at one point I used a heroic move to actually just get out a bit. And I couldn't catch up with him because Thorin had backed off to safety, so I couldn't heroic move with the dwarf. And I was suddenly going like, this is strange. and so that went on, and he basically slaughtered most of my rangers. Mm-hmm. And I then ended up, Thorin then had to go all the way back down again because I suddenly realised Thorin's pretty safe, but that's only a draw.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think it's particularly in my nature to play for a draw anyway. I'd rather go for a win and lose than sit back. I could have just hidden Thorin.
That's not why you lose.
That's why I lose an awful lot, yeah. But I could have hidden Thorin and guaranteed a draw, but I thought it was better to go for the win, essentially. So I eventually got him back in, but by the time he arrived with the dwarfs, most of the rangers were dead, and then I can't quite remember the last few. It's so bizarre. I know it's only yesterday. Maybe I've got a terrible memory. Sorry, GBHL fan. But the last few stages, I can't quite remember exactly what happened. But Thorin survived, and he didn't wound him. But I just run completely out of numbers, and George, he just broke me, I think, and got me down to 25%. So he routed me.
Yeah.
But didn't kill my leader, so the game ended, and it was 0-0.
0-0.
So, which was a really strange game. It was great fun. Really good, really odd armies. I've seen Rangers shoot and Legolas shooting Rangers and Legolas. Really good fun. Great guy. I really like George. Had a great game with him. Great couple of hours, but a very confusing game of rescue when Thorin was never in danger.
Yeah,
you know, he didn't need rescuing. He had to go and rescue everyone else. But yeah, 0-0. So after 2 games, a loss and a draw,
and no victory points scored.
No victory points, no. Not quite the start I was after, essentially.
No. Then
it was lunch. Yeah, after 2 games it was lunch, yeah. Which was cool.
Yeah.
Chicken curry.
Yeah.
There were chicken curry or burgers.
Yeah, but you had to queue a little bit for the burgers, so we jumped in and grabbed the curry.
Yeah, curry, first of the day.
Yeah, first of the day.
And then second curry. Because they were then like, we've got loads, does anyone want more? Obviously we want more. So second curry, which was really nice.
Yeah, get your money's worth.
Yep. And then there was a live Q&A with Dave and Kev.
Which you will see or will have seen.
Yeah, at some point it'll go up as film, so we won't talk too much about it. But James, Jamie, Kev and Dave just chatting about the hobby, sculpting, painting, really good, taking questions. Yeah. Again, something different for a tournament.
Yeah.
Which was kind of
it's really
cool.
Nice.
Like really, really good.
Great idea.
Yes, that was good fun. And then we also set our armies up, didn't we?
Yes.
Everyone set their armies up, and you're talking about 48 armies.
Yes. And
around the room.
The Shadow and Flame guys went round to kind of pick a top 10 so that they could then be judged the next day amongst the players for the best army vote, and obviously there was another vote where Shadow and Flame chose their favourite army as well out of those.
Absolutely. It's a good idea, that.
Yeah.
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 Was that suggested by anyone that we know?
I think I might have suggested, Jamie, that you can kind of limit the army viewing to about 10, because otherwise,
I think the thing...
You're never going to get around
the
40.
hall's so big.
Yeah.
And if there's 48 armies, you're not objectively going around going and looking at them. It would be quite spread out, and I think everyone would get like a vote.
Yeah, because you'd miss them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really good what they did, where they had all of the favourite army kind of nominees on one table. So all you had to do is walk around the table, and you can see them and kind of compare them without having to, you've walked around the whole hall and they're thinking, oh, that one back there was quite good, but I can't really make my mind up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really good.
Cool.
And some stunning armies.
Really. Yeah, lovely,
Really
lovely
good armies.
Good range as well, because if you have 12 people at a tournament, you know who's going, you know how good everyone is at painting. Like maybe models you've seen before, like 45 armies, like most of which you've never seen before. Is fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant.
So into game 3.
Yeah. So third game, who were you? This is Blockade now.
Blockade, yeah. First time I played Blockade. No, it's the first time I played Rescue. Never played Rescue before. Had played Blockade once against Sam.
Yeah.
But not properly. And I got drawn against a guy called Quinn Duggan, a young lad.
Yeah.
He's about 13, 14. Sorry if I've got that wrong.
You definitely I don't recognise the name.
I recognise the name.
Is he Sweet Friend in Question or something?
Yeah, I think maybe comments on YouTube.
And on the Scouring, I think his name's he's a regular scourer.
He scours, does he?
Yeah.
So, first tournament, I think, for Quinn.
I think so.
And he was there with, I think he was there with his cousin and I think his mum or his aunt, who were there kind of looking after him, essentially, or like, because he was if you were under 16, you had to have a parent. Yeah. So, great to see like younger players there. There were quite a few younger players at the tournament, which was really, really good to see. Quinn had brought along an Isengard army, which is quite similar to the sort of thing I normally bring.
Did it have ferals?
It didn't have ferals, it had berserkers. It had it was the kind of common effective build. So you had Vrasku with some crossbows, a Defence 7 captain with some berserkers, and a shaman with some pikes. Yeah. And they were very much in 3 separate warbands. Okay. This was Blockade, where you have to start on. It was a 6x4 board, so that's 72 inches. Yeah. You start, and if you are on foot, I had quite a slow army. Yeah. If you're on foot, you start 24 inches onto the board, and you have to then move. You're going lengthwise. So you then have to move off the far edge. Mm-hmm. So if you're on foot, you've got to go 48 inches.
What was your leader on, Damian?
This is the problem. Despite having a very slow army and starting to deploy 24 inches on, I then realised my leader was on a pony. My one leader. So despite having hobbits and dwarves, my army had to deploy 6 inches away from the table edge. So 66 inches from where it had to get. And not only that, the advantage of being on cavalry, of course, is you can go fast. Yeah. But Thorin was the only guy on a pony, so he was held up by the speed of the 5-inch dwarves. So 66. You're talking about, if everything goes well in normal movement turns, you're talking about 14 turns to get off. And I was like, this is going to be tricky.
That's not going to happen.
So I start moving forward, and Quinn deployed. I think he wanted to cover all bases, because I dropped Bilbo. I used Bilbo as a deployment drop. Yeah. And I think he started off by putting his crossbows over here, so he could get this kind of arc of fire across the table. I then deployed kind of towards the middle-y, and I think he put his Berserker warband in the middle of the far edge to kind of block me. And then he ended up putting his pikes on this edge. So he kind of had, essentially in the middle of each table edge, he had a warband to cover wherever I'd moved. Yeah. And the downside of that for him, I guess, was that he didn't have his numbers together. Yeah. So, and Quinn, as I say, he's a young player. I think he's still kind of learning some of the tactics of the game. Yeah. But he wanted to play in the spirit of it and really fun and aggressivly, like Isengard. Yeah. And so as I walked forward, the shaman his warband just charged straight at me. Okay. He charged like six pikemen into Thorin, like straight away, just to have a go at him. Yeah. And obviously I was able to maybe like get a few of them off. And Thorin at the start of the game can deal with that kind of thing. And so, but it blocked me because of fury and stuff. It took me a while to cut my way through. Yeah. Meanwhile, his other warbands are coming on. Yeah. I haven't made much ground. No. This whole battle line is happening about 15 inches away from the table I just start on. Gradually I was cut the pikes down. I set up an archer line to shoot blocks I set up a few like 6 rangers, blocked by 6 dwarfs to shoot at the crossbowmen. And the crossbowmen obviously took, you're talking about a 48-inch board, they probably took about 4 turns to get into range.
Yeah.
And then we started having a shooting war, and I was able to kill Vrasku. They're obviously not protected by Fury.
Yeah.
I was able to kill Vrasku in 1 round of shooting. He failed his fate roll. I think he was very... He was really... it would be unfair to not say this. He was really unlucky with his Fury rolls. He kind of got better at them, as if you can get better. But the first... I mean, I don't know exactly, but I don't think he passed 1 for like 10 rolls. Yeah. Something like that. Just, they were just dying in droves, which is... I couldn't help but feeling sorry for him. It's like, you should be saving more than this. But most of the pikes have been taken down. Although the shaman wouldn't die. I couldn't kill I was always fighting the shaman first to try and kill him, and the shaman just would not die, despite Legolas's best efforts. And I was basically then the crossbows were shooting because they had to go through the dwarfs who were defence 6. Yeah. The rangers were just out shooting.
They can't hit the rangers, can they? They can't target them.
Sorry, yeah. I mean, as in kill the dwarfs first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The rangers just really proved their dominance. The rangers were great for me in that game and just killed most of the crossbows. Yeah. By that point, I killed most of the pikes. Jamie was periodically counting down the games, saying you got an hour left, you got half an hour left. At this point, I think maybe we've got half an hour left, and I'm 55 inches from the board edge, and I was like, this isn't going to happen.
No.
And by that point, his Berserker Warband had then arrived. But again, because I wiped out the pikes for relatively little loss, I was able to then jump on that. Most of his crossbows were then dead, so I was able to divert some of the shooters in. Yeah. Thorin was still on his pony, and I was a little hesitant with Thorin, because of course he's trying to get VPs by killing my leader. Yeah. So I charged him into the weaker things, into the normal kind of troops, but not necessarily the
Berserkers.
Yeah, not the Berserkers and not the captain. And eventually I managed to break him. Vrasku had been his leader, I think. Yeah, Vrasku was his leader, so his leader was dead. It's broken, most of the crossbowmen ran off, and I was able, he got down to 25%, and I killed the captain. And in the last turn, the Thorin did a very unheroic, just move backwards, so that the captain, on the off chance, couldn't wound him.
Strike.
And Thorin ended the game 16 inches away from the table edge. And it started 6 inches on. So he moved 10 inches.
Yeah, but if he hadn't been on a pony, he'd have started 24 inches on.
Yeah,
so
if he hadn't been on a pony, he would have been further on at the start than he was at the end. But thankfully for me, I knew what the victory conditions were, so I knew as long as I broke him, which I was able to do because I could deal with his warbands one at a time, I'd win.
Yeah, as long as you weren't broken.
So I think for a 3-0 win. Yeah, for breaking. But really good fun. It was, it was nice to play against a different player. It's good to see Quinn kind of coming along and putting everything into it and playing with fun and gusto. And I think we kind of shared a few tips with him about feinting and that sort of stuff. And
as the Isengard Pro.
Yeah, indeed. As the maybe I've used the army a lot, so it's kind of it's things like he would fight with his shaman first, and I was like, well, we'll leave that till last because then if I kill him. Yeah, you don't benefit from fury, and that's just that sort of things. Things that you get with practice. That we all, the mistakes we all make when we start playing. But I enjoyed it. It was a good game. It was good fun. His cousin was really nice as well. He was there throughout it. So really good hour and a half, and good to get a win on the board.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was good stuff. Yeah.
So my blockade game, I was also the defender, so trying to get off the board. Obviously with Glorfindel, so setting up far back like Thorin did, but obviously I have some cavalry with him to so he can actually run fast. And I was playing against Sam Page, who obviously is a regular on the scene, so I have played him before twice in a tournament. And he had his Hunter Orc list, so a few mounted models, but quite a lot on foot as well. But lots of 2 attack models, low fight value, but he can make a sizable line across the board to stop me from breaking through. So, I mean, in terms of how the game played out, I was quite cautious, trying to... I think I kind of sprinted towards one side of the board, because obviously Sam had to kind of, with me having cavalry, kind of give himself the best chance of catching me, so go kind of 1 warband on the back edge and then 2 on the side, so he could, wherever I went, he could kind of
converge,
get there. So I obviously just chose one side, so at least that one of his warbands was going to struggle to get in.
You're only going to fight 2 of them.
And that was his archer warband, just because I didn't want to really run at the archer warband, because I don't really want to lose my horses, especially Glorfindel's to a rogue shot.
Yeah.
So I was every move was me checking how far away Narzug was. Definitely outside of range
half
of Narzug.
Of his movement as well, so it's like they can shoot 24, but you can move 3, so they need to be 27.
Yeah. I think so. Sam's modelled Fimble on a rock.
Yes.
Which looks really cool, but unfortunately that meant that he wasn't behind cover when all the rest were.
Well, so he started poking his head out.
So I managed to shoot Fimble's walk, all because Sam had modelled him on a rock.
That's it. That's when you're playing for the right reasons. When you model your when you put your models so that they give you a disadvantage. Like my damn eagles.
Yeah.
Put my eagles in the trees. They look great, but they're a foot off the table.
So anyway, I was going for this corner, and there was kind of a big rock that was either going to funnel me more towards the middle or right round the outside. There was maybe space for one cavalry model just to slip through, but Sam saw the gap and obviously he had a few Moranonauts allied in, and he had 2 Moranonauts backed up by 2 Moranonaut spearmen, and then some men nearby to stop that black gap. And I was going for it, and I was like, I'm not breaking through that particularly easily. His Shaman was on that side as well, and Glorfindel's terrifying as well. That's a big bonus.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want to risk being charged by loads of Moranonauts either. So my plan was to then go, okay, I can't get through there. I'm going to actually go away from the Shaman and kind of loop all the way back round, because get an hour and 45 for the games.
Yeah, the games were quite long, weren't they? Hour and 45 for 500 minutes.
So games,
500 minutes?
Yeah.
500 points.
So games weren't usually going to time, which is sometimes a frustration in a tournament when you just want to actually play to the victory.
I was really pleased that only
conditions.
Only 2 of my games, I think, were stopped by the time limit out of 7, which is what you want, because you don't. We had the game at Mansfield.
Oh yeah.
Where you still would have won anyway, I think.
Yeah,
but you want the game to end because the victory conditions do it, rather than going, if we'd been quicker,
one more turn,
it might have changed it. So that was, I think sometimes they're a bit long. I remember Sam Jeffries coming over to me in 2 games, and like 10 minutes in, going, no, I won. I killed him. Like I wiped him out in 15 minutes, or whatever, because he had an all-hero army.
Yeah.
And then that person, of course, has got an hour and a half, which is the downside.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, particularly over a 2-day tournament where you got 7 games, I think it was good.
It made it a lot more relaxed as well. You
Yeah.
could kind of chat with your opponent a bit. So anyway, I was going to go all the way around, and Sam obviously saw this and moved across to stop me. Well, he came out from that rock bit to chase Glorfindel, to try and pin me if he could get a heroic move maybe at one point. Unfortunately for Sam, he then had left that cover, that little blockade that he'd made. So I was able to then literally faint for jinking it up. So Glorfindel then zipped right round the outside back to this little hole. So Sam obviously realised his mistake, but then figured that he was never going to catch Glorfindel once I'd gone, because Glorfindel was going to be able to heroic combat.
Once he's ahead of you.
Yeah. There was a couple of Morannons who were kind of stopping just in case I'd got through, but Glorfindel would be able to just charge in heroic combat and slingshot himself towards the edge.
Sure.
So Sam then changed his tactic to, okay, ignore Glorfindel, I'm going to break him. So if I break him and not broken, obviously because I've been jinking around and I've not really done much damage to him, then that would be a draw. Is that right?
Yeah.
Broken
you both get breaking forces in that one. Rescue.
But if I hadn't broken him, that would be 3 to him, and then Glorfindel getting off would be 3 to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Sam, charged in, had lots of fights in his favour, and then over the 2 turns where Glorfindel was merrily making his way off the board, had some quite poor luck in terms of winning fights. I don't think he won many fights. Obviously I have the high fight value, but he was...
He's got extra attacks.
Yeah, a bit unlucky on those, and he needed to kill about 11 in 2 turns, and I think he managed about 2 models. Yeah. So it was a bit of a shame, because it was still, when Sam decided I'm going to try and break you, it was still quite tense, but then that tension kind of went when he he didn't get the. I thought he was going to get reasonably close.
Sure. So 3-0.
3-0. Yeah.
So you've actually seen a pattern developing that at this tournament the VPs were relatively low.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure was deliberate.
Yeah.
Because to stop the huge VP swing of things like hold ground. That I know that's something that Jamie doesn't particularly like.
No.
That in one game you can give 40 VPs.
Yeah.
And swing a tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So the tournament, that's interesting to see that there was thought put in not just to the scenarios but the tournament as a whole. Yeah. And you saw that with the slightly modified hold ground at the end.
Yeah. Though there is still some different VP stuff later.
Oh, is there?
Well, I mean, the first games are generally 3 points. But then. Yeah. Oh, you could get 6 if you broke hand.
Yeah, there was normally like 6.
Yeah, you could
things
get 6,
available.
yeah.
But much smaller, like scope.
Yeah.
To change than when you're doing recon and whole ground and high ground.
Yeah.
I think, which is good.
Yeah. Wow. What time is that?
So next up, it was my blockade.
Yep.
Yeah. My second blockade.
Yeah.
Which was against Alan, of course it was. Last game. Sorry, Alan.
So the game is definitely in my crotch area. The game reference. For those who are wondering what Damian was doing, he wasn't just
finding the answers down there. Yeah. I didn't even think. Yeah. We have some cheat notes. Yeah. I played Alan, who was one of the Scottish guys, and nothing but praise for the Scottish guys. I'd met Chris and David before at the Mansfield tournament. Played Chris, great game, and Alan was down this time, which was cool. And I got drawn against him at blockade, so this time he was the defender, so I had to stop him getting off. And he had a dwarf army, another dwarf army, and you can imagine with Gimli, you can imagine how thrilled I was to see that. And his lead, what I was hoping going into this, my plan was to deploy quite deep, not try and stop him, line of dwarfs, line of archers, shoot him, and just chip away. I was hoping for a Vrasku leader, a defence 5, 2 wound, 1 fate, sort of someone I could just kill the leader from a distance, Legolas auto hitting, that sort of stuff. And I got a dwarf army.
With the leader as...
The leader was a King's Champion.
Whose defence?
Defence 9.
Yes.
And with his heralds, 5 fate. And he's surrounded by Khazad guards, so defence 7, so wounding them on 6s. Plus Gimli with Khazad guards and Iron Guard, defence 6 minimum. 6s to win everything.
Yeah.
And Alfred. Of course. And in the previous game, he'd got Alfred had got Gimli up to 10 might. 10 might Gimli. And then he said, I remember chatting to Alan, who's lovely bloke, going, yeah, but I still burnt through it all. I'm like, what? We're meant to feel sorry for you because you used all your 10 might.
Oh, heroic combat.
Yeah, you just do everything. So
that.
I looked at that and I was like, this is awful.
Yeah.
But I still set up and I'd used Bilbo as a drop. I had to go first, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I put him on one far side, and then everything. Alan's leader's warband was on this side, so I just put everything there because this Gimli's warband didn't really matter.
Yeah.
So then Bilbo with his 4-inch move was on the opposite side of a 48-inch board, and so we had, as the game started, we had this kind of running gag of Bilbo 4 inches every turn, and I was like, he's coming, he's going to save the day. Bilbo's going to do it for me. And
going on an adventure.
Yeah, he's going on an adventure, crawling across, and you never realise how small 4 inches is until you try and navigate a 6x4 board.
It's a family. It's a family channel. I can't make a
comment. Indeed, absolutely. And so I got my battle line set up, and I was firing away, and I worked out that hitting, I should be killing 2 a turn, something like that. Like I had 12 shots, 8 should hit, 6s, 1 or 2. I could kill 1 or 2 a turn, and I wasn't doing it.
No.
I maybe killed 1 a turn or none. And I remember James, actually, GBHL James, coming over and me just looking at the casualty pile, and it's been like maybe 3 dead after 4 turns. I'm going, this isn't enough for when he hits me.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the range thing, I think he did a couple of marches, and maybe I had 3 turns of shooting before he was nearly on me. I then did the elf trick of moving back for 2 turns, going back 3 inches to keep him off me, and managed to get the casualties up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't firing at the King's Champion. I thought with him, I'm better off just trying to, because I could get points for breaking him as well.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm better off just chipping away at the Khazards.
Yeah.
And I was able to do a fair bit of damage, and then finally the lines clashed, and I was still I was fighting with the dwarfs. My warriors variable went up to his Khazards, where they're very evenly matched.
Yeah.
Really, because they're both even fight, both wounding on 6s, assuming you don't piercing strike.
Yeah.
So this kind of scrap broke out, and I was then thinking, forget the leader. I'm going to try and kill everything else, which is still tough because I'm wounding everything on 6s across the board, really. Then when he's broken, then try and swamp the leader.
Yeah.
My plan, of course, was to get Bilbo in. The plan for the game was always Bilbo, for any game this tournament, Bilbo goes in on the big boss and halves their fight value. It's invisible, so Bilbo's still trotting across the table. Kind of notable things then in this were Thorin kind of charged in his pony. I was trying to, because Thorin is one of the scenarios where Thorin's not important for me.
Yeah.
I can just use him as a beast because it doesn't matter if he goes down in a sense.
Yeah.
He got Alfred managed to get the King's Champion up to 5 might, which wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Like, he got 1 might 3 times. So I was like, okay, I'll take that. Gimli had used 2 of his might on marches, and he managed to get into a combat with Thorin, and I can't quite remember the details of this, but there was something like Thorin was trapped by Gimli and a bunch of other guys, and Gimli had no might, but he must have, I think he heroic struck, so he had the highest fight value, and then he might have had 1 left or something like that, and he rolled about 7 dice, didn't get a 6, he's got a 5 highest, and I think Gimli only got a 4, so Gimli could only might up to a 5, and Thorin got a 6.
Shielding? Or
no, he was on the pony. He couldn't
shield,
no, and he got a natural 6 and 1, and so his chance to kind of kill this big tank of mine kind of vanished, and that then allowed Thorin, I think Thorin then was able to escape from that little death trap and start killing others, and I was doing, it was kind of even, but I was chipping away, definitely like the shooting had done a fair bit.
Yeah.
I was knocking him down, he was getting close to his break point, and then in one glorious turn, 2 Mirkwood Rangers charged 1 of his heralds. They won the fight. They need 6s, his defence 9, so they need 6s by 5s.
Yeah.
1 of them wounds on a 6. 1 of them wounds on a 5. Yeah, so 6 by 5, got that. And I was like, that's pretty good. He'll use a fate point. First fate point, 1. Second fate point, 1. And he's got a reroll for that as well, because he was a banner, he had a reroll to win the fight as well. So it was like 2 on 2, and I was just staring there, and Alan was like... So I was kind of like, that's amazing. So I was like, alright, that's an unexpected bonus. The next turn, 1 Mirkwood Ranger charges the other Herald, wins the fight, he's got a reroll, he's essentially got 2 dice. Rolls a 6 to wound, rolls a 5 to wound him again.
2 fate points then.
2 fate points. Rolls a 3. Rolls a 3. And the other Herald went down. 3 Mirkwood Rangers. And I was like... And poor Alan at that point, I was, you know, when you're genuinely sorry, I was like, I'm so sorry about this. Like,
no, you weren't inside, you were like...
Yeah, you know, you're pleased, but it was like, that's horrendous. I don't even dare to think what the odds of that happening. But yeah, so Alan was just shaking his head, and of course now his main general's down to defence 7.
And only defence 7.
Yeah, which is, you know, from 9 is a kind of walk in the park. He's still got a very angry Gimli at this stage as well. And I'd say maybe he's about 18 inches from the table edge, so he's getting close. Yeah. Still very tense. He's still got a fair few bodies, and I'm kind of running out of men. Yeah. And that, I remember those being the big highlights. Yeah. We then kind of chipped away a bit more at each other. Bilbo's coming, and he calls. He's had to use all the King's Champion's might to heroic essentially, and there's a gap to get through for the King's Champion where he's got through the dwarves, and the dwarves now behind him, and there's just a thin line of elves, and there's enough room for the King's Champion to move, and he called a move, I think it was, a heroic move, and Bilbo had walked, you know, 38 inches across the board, and was able to heroic move. He could do nothing with it, but there was an elf in range who, when Bilbo moved, the elf charged the King's Champion
and tagged him,
sacrificing himself, but stopping the King's Champion. And I think that was the King's Champion's last might or something. So and then that allowed me to jump back on him.
Yeah.
And Bilbo genuinely potentially saved the day. Because I think if he'd have got through that, I then would have been chasing him.
Yeah.
Which would have been a lot harder to deal with. And so, yeah, Bilbo, brilliant for me in that game. Well done, Bilbo. So then that happened, a few more scraps. I don't think I killed Gimli, I don't think he killed Thorin. They were just duking it out of the back because neither of them really mattered anymore. It was just Gimli after Thorin in this big fight, which was great. And then he got broken, and it was coming really down to the wire. I'm like, this is really close. I'm not sure how this is going to end. And he took his courage test for the King's Champion, and he rolled a double 1. And his courage, I think he's courage 5, and he's got 1 will, maybe something like that. But he couldn't do it, and we both just stared, and it was genuine. I was genuinely, honestly disappointed. I was happy to win the game, but
bit of an anticlimax,
it wasn't how it should have ended. It should have ended with the King's Champion near the edge of the board and either moving off or being killed.
And then Bilbo killing him.
Yeah, Bilbo killing him. I mean, I think I had it. I think at that point,
when he's out
of mind, and Bilbo was there,
tough.
and I had, I'm not sure if Legolas was still alive, but I had enough guys to get on him,
Yeah.
beat his fight. I probably would have taken him down because I think he had no fate at that point. But it was an unfortunate way for it to end, and it kind of represented some of Alan's luck throughout it.
Yeah.
But a really cracking game, like, it was the last game of the day, and I loved it. I thought it was a really good game. Alan was a lovely bloke to play against. Took it all very good naturedly. He had that kind of bad luck that you could, a lesser player would get miserable about. Well, what's the point?
Yeah.
And we actually played another turn after that to see what would happen. And then Alan went after Thorin. And he kind of went out, he charged back, and I'm not sure this is what would have happened, but he kind of went backwards, I think to try and, I can't remember what the rationale was, to try and break me. Does he get victory points for that as well? Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it, a really great game, and that ended the day on more of an up for me.
Yeah.
So, end of day 1, 4 great games, most importantly. 2 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw.
Yeah, and it was 6-0 last one.
Oh, the last one, 6-0, does that make sense?
Probably.
I killed his leader and I broke him. Yeah, 6-0.
Nice.
6-0.
Yeah.
And you ended the day on?
Well, not told them about my 4th game.
Sorry, indeed.
So my 4th game was against Josh Mead. So I met him before but never played him. So it was really nice to actually play him. This time he was the defender trying to get off, and he had he had 3 Dunlending heroes with all orcs. So a Dunlending captain, 2 Dunlending captains, and 3 Dun Wolfsbane on a horse. And I thought 3 Dun was going to be his general, but it was actually a Dunlending captain with a shield. I guess so that 3 Dun was free to go and charge everything without fear of,
it's that argument of using someone weaker as your general so that your main fighter is...
Exactly, so it probably makes sense. So obviously he gets to set up 24 inches off the board edge with his Dunlending captain. So I deployed my Rivendell Knights on one side, and I deployed my... I was kind of agonising over whether I go on the backboard with my kind of high elves or on the other side, and I kind of reasoned, I'll probably go on this side and try to meet him in the middle. He can't move that fast up foot. So what happened was Josh deployed his Dunlending captain on the opposite side to my cavalry. So I guess because he thought they were scarier.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, that's great because the cavalry can come over quicker. Yeah. I was afraid that he'd deploy him on the side of the cavalry, because then my foot troops would never be able to get there and impact it for a long time. So what happened was that I was able to run my cavalry round whilst my infantry kind of blocked him, and get towards him whilst his other warband that had started way over towards the cavalry were struggling to then keep up. So he was a warband down, which is obviously a disadvantage. But as my cavalry came across, he had 5 orc archers. And he had, a few pot shots and managed to take down a couple just with 5 orc archers. Yeah, I was like, oh no.
Sometimes it happens, doesn't it?
This is disastrous.
Sometimes it's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so he had his middle warband was 3 Dun, and he came across to kind of block off the knights with his. So he had 5 warg riders, something like that. maybe 6, and there was kind of a bit of difficult terrain of rock, so I couldn't get through to the captain without kind of killing stuff and getting round, and he put his captain cleverly in the difficult ground, so I'd have had to dismount with any cavalry to get towards him. So basically I was kind of waiting outside, and Threeden decided to charge in against someone on foot nearish to Glorfindel, and then he had his 5 wargs to then go in and kind of tie up my men, tie up Glorfindel, and whilst Threeden can smash up my elves. Unfortunately, all 4 wargs, because 4 warg riders, all tried to charge Glorfindel and all failed.
Oh, no,
every single one, and then the 5th one couldn't even get through because it was blocked by all of the others.
You have to be so careful, don't you, which one you fail with first.
Yeah, but when you fail on 4, there's no hope. So that was really disastrous for Josh, because
poor guy.
He charged Threeden in and then had no backup because they were all stood looking at Glorfindel. Yeah, I think that.
Thank God for the FAQ.
So
put Terror back in.
So Damian thinks that I'm not very sporting, and apparently I noticed I'd done it, but Josh said that after every failed courage test I was doing a little laugh.
He said something like,
after a few,
as he failed each one, he was laughing more. This is most sporting Harrison. This is what he's really like when he doesn't control it.
Yes. But yeah, really bad luck. So obviously I was then able to move Glorfindel freely, and the rest of my men who hadn't get engaged onto Threeden, trap him. Obviously he heroic struck, as did I, and I think he rolled a 1 for the heroic strike, so comedy of errors really. And then obviously Threeden just went down in 1 turn. I mean, he's not going to stand up to that. After that, it was me desperately trying to break through to get to his captain. He kind of eventually got his relief force over just as I kind of got into the captain. How did I get into him? I think that was it. I think I dismounted my captain and took him into the difficult terrain to fight him, and I think that he kind of ran out to be protected and have his banner. He had no banner around him, but in the end, Glorfindel was able to add. That's what Glorfindel did, a heroic combat to make sure that he could get in on the captain, and he killed him. Now I was so gung ho going for the leader that I'd kind of forgotten about the whole breaking thing.
Yeah. And I think there's in the new scenario, you can lose sight.
Yeah.
Because some of the victory conditions are a bit confusing.
Yeah.
If you forget who you are, there's an argument of forgetting who's the defender and who's the attacker and stuff.
And also because I'd been kind of throwing stuff at him, I wasn't that far off breaking, and he's got a whole new warband with a Dunlenin captain full might because he's not done anything ready to pounce. So I was like, I'll just kill the leader. Killed him, and then realised if I'd killed one more model I would have broken him, so that would have been 6-0 as opposed to 3-0. But it's just the way it goes. Really good game though, great fun. I think the Warg Riders was a big turning point, because obviously if you charged him with Warg Riders on, he needed only 1 on Glorfindel, and the rest could then charge him.
Heroic combat though, maybe. Glorfindel fighting 1 Warg.
Yeah, maybe. But it's still not as devastating as getting them all in on 3.
Yeah, sure. So another win.
Yeah.
So leaving you on
4 wins for the day.
4 wins.
4 out of 4. And there were 2 other people on 4 from 4.
So you're joint top?
Joint top, yeah.
Joint top.
There was J. Clare with his 52 model Lake Town Army.
Fantastic Lake Town Army.
Yeah.
Really good. Probably, we think maybe the only one in the world.
And probably the most expensive 500-point
army.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Surely.
Yeah. Amazing.
They're the most expensive troops in the game, aren't they?
Yeah.
A pound per point.
Yeah, pound per point.
They're the most expensive troops. So he was doing it, and
and it was David Alexander as well with another high elf force who was also on 4 wins.
So you were joint top, and I was. Where did I play? I played on table 11.
Mid-table.
I was probably about 20, something like that, with 2 wins, a draw.
Yeah.
But happy with those results.
Yeah.
And great games, more importantly. So, of course, the day of gaming was over, but that's when the day really starts. So we, everyone stuck around, really, didn't they?
Yeah.
I'm sure a few people left, but there were about, I reckon, 35 sticking around for the evening, which is amazing. You know, it's more people sticking around for the evening than there are at most tournaments.
Yeah.
So we all went over to the Banbury Arms. Is it the Banbury Arms? I think it's the Banbury Arms, the Beefeater across the road, where James and Jamie had reserved a area for 30 people for dinner. And then word starts to spread. I saw GBHL James in the Northwest Games go, what? And he did his, shoulders up and off he went. And he was like, oh, what's going on? And we get to the Beefeater and it turns out no reservation. Not quite sure what happened. Doesn't really matter what happened.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the lines, they'd lost the the booking. I think. I guess the guys had a word with them. They said, we can deal with it. We'll set you up an area, but it's going to be about an hour. Didn't bother me. Sat downstairs in the bar in the Beefeater. I took ages to get served at the bar, but that's not their fault. That's because there were 35 men coming in, all wanting pints, and they ran out of glasses, which I don't think they were expecting 35 pint glasses. And I ended up at that point having a really nice chat with Kevin Dave and Josh as well, Josh Pinder. Just really interesting talking to them about not just about painting, but more their painting stations and their kind of where they paint, and just picking their brains about everything and just chatting about the hobby in general, again to different people. It was really, really good. So that was nice. Don't know where you were at that point. Off with watching the football. Was the football?
Yeah, it was the penalties between Wigan and Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final. Yeah. So that was quite fun.
So then after an hour downstairs, we then go up to this room, function room. All sit down there. Again, not enough space. There's a space for 30. Yeah. So James leads a breakaway group, I think, off to somewhere else to find some other food, which is a bit of a shame, but kind of the nature of the beast. In that sort of room, you're not going to be all chatting anyway. Yeah. And then it turns out they then came up. This was at 8:30, I think, and said our food will be an hour and a half. Yeah. And we were like, no. Long story short, we went no, because that would be eating at 10 o'clock instead of 7:30. So we all left. Yeah. And we went, don't really matter. Just find somewhere else. Walked on, found James, that lot, they were in an Italian. Yeah. We carried on walking and found a curry house, haven of war gamers. So we went in there, the guys were like, yep, absolutely. And the difference, it was wonderful. That I was like, of course we can serve 30 people. Yeah. Of course we'll do it in half an hour. Yeah. So I reckon 20 of us maybe in there, because there were 2 long tables, 20 of us. Maybe. Yeah, I think there was another, like Sam and then Mark went off in a different group because they didn't fancy curry, but about 20, somewhere in that region of us. Sat down, set menu, blown away again by £12 by the curries of the north. £12 menu for poppadoms, mixed starters, any curry you wanted, which was great. It was really nice to see Jack was there, young lad Jack, who had taken Jack Peepee. Yeah. Not Jack Double P, as James said in the awards ceremony. Jack Peepee, which I think is part of a longer name. I think. Who was one of the youngest lads there, I think. He was there with his dad at his first ever tournament, and he took Ed Ball to a draw in the first game ever. I mean, to Jack, outstanding result. Taking Ed Ball, and it was his first
Felbeast, his
3 Felbeast,
Ed Ball's Felbeast.
First 500-point game ever. He'd only played 250-point games before this point. First 500-point game ever. He'd drawn against Ed Ball with 3 Felbeast, and he got a draw. We bowed down before you, Jack.
And the amazing thing is that he got the wooden spoon at the end.
He did get the wooden spoon at the end, yeah. So
to get the wooden spoon and draw Ed Ball in the tournament, amazing.
But he came out for the curry, which is great, and that slightly unexpected. Yeah. To have, he was there with his dad. Dad's name was Dave, I think. I was sitting next to. Really nice bloke, and of course then you're all drinking. Yeah. Not him. I should stress you all drinking. But you have to kind of dial down some of the raucousness because there's a young lad there. But they were all up for a laugh. His dad was to kind of jokingly poking us, going, keep the swearing down, lads. And it was all in good humour and everything. And just a great night, wasn't it? It was a great meal, so much food. It ended up with all sorts of games of putting the after eights on your face and having to get them down into your mouth.
GBHL Jamie started that.
Yeah, GBHL Jamie. If only, did someone film it?
No, but there were customers from other tables watching us.
Yeah, and you look a bit kind of, funny doing that, and then eating oranges off your shoulders and stuff. And it was such a great atmosphere. And everyone always says at the time, that's the best bit.
Yeah.
And every time I go to one, I'm like, it is. I forget, and you go out something like that, and it's just, you're all chatting about the hobby, you're all telling each other stories, and you're just laughing and laughing and laughing. And just having a great night, wasn't it?
Yeah, really good.
So that cost us, with tip, 14 quid plus drinks.
Yeah.
We then, I've kind of like, I can't lose track because we went to so many places. We then went and met up with some of the other guys.
Just kind of say we went out.
At the pub, at the Pigeon and something, where there was live music.
Yes.
Which was great, really good fun. That then shut, and we went on somewhere else. And it was like Stockport was closing behind us, and that we kept getting sent to different places. Yeah, essentially, yeah. There was one where we got to, someone told us to go around the corner. I think Chris Young led us there. Maybe. Yeah. And it was shut, and the door was shut. Was it a hotel?
No, there were two girls there at the door, and Chris tried to get in, and they slammed the door.
They slammed the door shut, yeah. So I didn't know if it was a pub or a hotel or what. And they were knocking on the door, and we did the whole melon thing, to open the door. And somehow someone opened it, and we basically 20 men that charmed our way in. And I went, look. Are you open? And he says, it's down to the landlady.
When you say like, 20 men charmed the way, and I think it was GBHL James said,
GBHL James,
this will be a £400 round.
Yeah, essentially he went, look, there's 20 guys here who are all thirsty. So we all went into this, it was a hotel bar, I think. Yeah. Stayed in there until they shut, and then moved on. Yeah. And then I think went somewhere else before the last place. I think we went to 4 places for a drink after
I went to bed at that point.
Did you? Yeah, because you headed off after that one. Yeah. And we definitely went to one where we got a cab somewhere to another bar, got in there, and by the time they'd let us in, the bar was shut and they'd rung last orders. And then James again went, no, mate. No, come on now, come on.
It's quite a good impression.
No, come on. And
last orders for winners.
Yeah, last orders for winners. And he went, we're part of a big group, mate, no. And he let us have it. Yeah. He kind of, the guy went, all right, fair enough, your group can all have a drink. Yeah. Had that, and then left. And then there was talk of a lock-in at the Northwest Training Centre. And at that point, I think it was 2 a.m, and I went, guys, I'm out. And me, Jan, who was from Holland, who came over, what a lovely bloke.
He got
Thrall.
6 out of 7.
6 out of 7 most sporting boats.
You can
gorgeous
see why.
painting model, like such a nice bloke, like to make the effort to come over to Holland. Although I was chatting to him on his little video about how long it took. It only took him about 7 hours. It took us 4. Yeah. Like, to come over from Holland, nearly took him the same amount of time.
It's a bit more expensive,
Yeah. Not so many lovely people there. Yeah. Not enough words for that guy. He was absolutely lovely. Yeah. Great to go out with.
So enthusiastic about the other people's armies.
So generous with his time and his compliments and that sort of thing. So thanks for coming over. Yeah. That was amazing.
And Søren as well.
Yeah, well, everyone. There was
Barry and Gary from
6 guys internationally, maybe 7. Like fantastic kind of turnout. Yeah, like lots of international travellers. Really, really fantastic.
Yeah.
And again, you felt like by the end of the night you'd known them for years. It's the way that what the hobby does. It's bizarre. So yeah, me, him, Thomas Macklin, and Jay Clare, I think, got a cab back to the hotel. 2 o'clock, stumbled into our room, to our bed, and dozed off, I think.
Yeah.
And that was the end of day 1. So at this stage, that's the end of the day 1 video. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe,
comment,
comment of course. Support your hobby, and
happy strategy battle gaming.